So I will jump in and just want to welcome everyone and welcome my sis back to, well, not back. This is our first time officially launching into this concept of two kids from Sac. I want to thank you for being persistent and persevering with me, and that we had early conversations. You planted this seed, and some technical snafus and busy schedules and all that stuff. I'm grateful that we're able to officially launch this exciting endeavor today, and I can't fathom doing this with anyone other than my brilliant sister and co-host, Melanie Shelby.
Oh, first of all, I'll take all of that introduction from you. No, I'm sitting here and I'm thinking to myself, we initially had this conversation over the summertime. It was really early spring because I remember my mother was having, we had a wonderful lunch right before my mother went in for hip replacement surgery.
Yeah,
So that was that was early
right.
spring, and
Man, that
I
hawks.
mean, since then, I know you're not supposed to date yourself in a podcast, but since then, I think about the event that we had in Washington D.C.
Yes.
And so it's always beautiful to experience the extension of a friendship.
For sure.
A extension of a friendship, a brotherhood, a sisterhood, a partnership. And so how exciting to be with you. I know we cannot continue without recognizing the wonderful Jesse Delgado. And we
Yes.
are in his
Big
studio, and he is shooting this for us. And so, Jesse, thank you so
Yes.
very much for bringing us together.
That's right.
I want to give you a shout out. And if you are in the market of shooting your own podcast, please contact Jesse Delgado because he has the opportunity to make it happen for you as well.
That's right. That's right. Yeah, Jess is A1, first class, and glad to be here shooting this with him as well. I've been reflective, a lot lately.
Isn't it beautiful how the end of the year causes that?
It does. It does. Coming, we go into the season of Thanksgiving and gratitude, and being that we're so steeply rooted in our faith, we understand that it's far beyond a day, but we reflect back on, daily how we give thanks and cultivate our relationship with our Heavenly Father and deepening our faith. But it's, yes, during the holiday seasons, especially when the weather is inclement, gets a little bit cooler, you spend more time
It
with
is
family.
cold as hell in
and
Sac.
friends. It
Sac.
really,
It is
really
cold.
is. It's hella cold. And at this time of year, you just get reflective,
Yes.
and the gratitude is one of the sentiments that sticks with me, but most of all, being reflective as to, I find myself perpetually saying like, man, a month, 2, 3 months has already gone by, and here we are at the end of 2025 looking at 2026. And I'm reflective for a number of reasons when I think about turning 50 next month in January 2026.
Oh my God, it really is next month.
It really is next month.
Wow.
It really is January 20th. And I just think back to the reality that, there's fewer days, unless God says otherwise, before me than behind me, and I think about what comes with, a year of reflection or a life of reflection. And I know that we both professionally and in our communities in so many different ways have found ways to explore our dreams, to be reflective, to reimagine and even reinvent ourselves, and being two kids from Sac, we always know that we have a story to tell, and there's power in a testimony. So I just wanted to set up, our first kind of topic of conversation, which one thing I've always been intrigued about you is just your versatility, intellectually stimulating. I've always looked up to you, even though we're not too far, in an age gap. Because of your creativity, your smarts, you've been cutting edge, as far as when you went away to school to go to UCLA and launched out in your entrepreneurial endeavor around government relations. But I've been most recently impressed with your ability to reimagine and reinvent yourself when it comes to the launch of what I believe is one of America's premium luxury brands when it comes to tequila. And we'll talk about the tequila later, but just talk about life's journey on you, how you decided to make the pivot to reflect, to reimagine, and to reinvent. Who Melanie Shelby is, and not reinvent in like a PR
No,
way,
I
but just
understand.
evolving, you know what I'm saying?
No. When you said reinvent, blah, blah. I understand that intimately. And let
Yeah.
me tell you this. As you prepare to see 50, you and Tamika, my sister, of course, celebrated 50 with me. And I literally put together 3 days of celebration within a 60-day time frame.
Wow.
And was so honored that 65 people joined me for my celebration. And the really interesting thing was most of those folks flew in for me. And so as you reflect on 50, and everyone celebrates and moves differently, one of the things that I would share for you, if I was giving some advice, is that the best is yet to come. Yes, there are more days behind you than are in front of you. However, more territory to conquer, more learning to ingest because you are a lifelong learner, more relationships to deepen and flourish, more understanding of what you really don't know, and dare I say, more forgiveness to offer. Forgiveness to yourself, forgiveness to those who have betrayed you, forgiveness to just everyone. And forgiveness is something that I've been really, really rooted in, and releasing and letting go. Because you can't reap the benefits of what God has for you holding on to anger,
That's right.
holding on to frustration. And so I offer that to you. And it's
you.
interesting because you may remember at my one of the bigger events for my 50th is when we had the speakeasy, and it was the Cotton Club, and we transformed my parents' backyard to Harlem Nights, which was so fun. And I always say the men understood that assignment. The ladies, I knew were going to be great, but you men showed out. And, but it was there that I shared with my family and my friends that I was moving on this journey. And I was saying, and I don't know if you remember, it was there that I said we were partying with a purpose, and you'll be getting a phone call from me as it relates to how I would love for you to be a part of my journey. And it's interesting because some people, you know, their involvement has been investing. Some people, their involvement has been connecting. Some people, their involvement has been participating. And so it is so wonderful when I think back to that moment, when I share that, I get a little emotional because everyone in that experience has done something to propel this and move this forward. And, you know, the other thing I think that 50 brings is the opportunity to understand that some dreams may lay dormant, but there are new dreams to birth.
That's right.
And you have to open yourself up to that. And so it's interesting. This venture in Alma, I think we're in 2025. You know, I think back to in 2000, right before 2000, when I was working for PG&E and their public affairs, and they had us at all sort of service stations around the service area talking about Y2K. And we thought everything was going to melt down in Y2K. And here we are now, 25, almost 26 years later. And that person then had no idea that this person now would launch a luxury sipping tequila with no additives. And it's interesting because I was sharing earlier, I had an opportunity to meet someone through Jesse, and I was sharing earlier how difficult this journey is. You know, people see me at events, and they see me pouring, and they hear me sharing my story, and they get to see the excited part of it, right? 90 points of distribution, tequila dinners. You know, I just had my master distiller here, and we did an event for industry in Sacramento. Shout out Cerveceria by Urban Roots. Dan, who is the manager there, wonderful. You and your team were spectacular. And Rob Archie, thank you for having a wonderful restaurant footprint. But as you know, you see that piece. What you don't see is the no's that I get every day, the door that gets slammed in my face every day, the disrespect that I get from conversations, and sometimes just getting up to have the fortitude to do it all over again, knowing that you have to go through the muck and mire can truly be difficult.
For sure.
And I think when we were envisioning this podcast, we talked about grit, right? When you talk about two kids from Sac and the grit to understand and know this journey is not going to be easy. This journey is not going to be simple. If it were, other people would have done it and they would have excelled.
Right.
And so, Melanie Shelby used to always say, you can be the first, but don't be the last. So when I think about January 16th, 4 days before your birthday, it will be 2 years that Inalama is on the market.
Wow.
And we will have, I think by then we will have hit about 4,000 bottles that have been sold or moved. That's
amazing.
mind-blowing.
Yeah, it is.
Considering we self-distribute, considering I'm constantly raising money. I literally deliver tequila to accounts, right? I feel like E40 in the 80s pushing weight out of the back. You know what I mean? Hustling out of the trunk of my car.
Right.
And I say it so proudly because there's going to be an opportunity to reflect on that 10 years down the road.
Yeah.
When you think of, here you sit at as the CAO for a significant health entity.
Yeah.
When you look at sort of what the year holds, right, or reflect on, and it's interesting because you've got some intersections. You've got a professional intersection, you've got personal intersection, and then you've got this moment in terms of your birthday.
Yes.
And so as you balance and weigh all of that, how does that resonate with you, right? And how do you navigate that?
Yeah, I appreciate, that question because my life, professionally and personally, it makes sense retrospectively. It's like seemingly as I've navigated, my life, especially my professional career, things have been circuitous seemingly, but they were very much so, walking a path circumspectly that God had for me. I am grateful that early in my career, starting my career in 1998 in healthcare administration and now exceeding 27 years.
Isn't it amazing when you hear that number?
It is crazy.
Because you can remember, I can remember when I was 27.
That's a grown child, graduate student, and, all that other stuff. But I think back, to my journey and mentors and people who provided inspiration for me, locally here in Sacramento and nationally. And I'm grateful for the example they set. But I'm also grateful for God allowing me to embrace and eventually accept who I am and what my journey was meant to be versus trying to replicate or duplicate that which I saw, in others. So when you think about where I currently sit, working with Dignity Health Mercy Medical Group as a chief administrative officer, a member of Common Spirit Health, I'm grateful for the role that I have in leading our business and administrative functions of a relatively large medical group, serving on the board of the California Endowment, on the board locally of the Crocker Art Museum, and in other civic and community-based capacities. I think about it as kind of my diversified portfolio of all of who God created me to be. I think sometimes I've struggled with being compartmentalized, and it's only been of late that I've appreciated and understood that we are a multifaceted people, and you get fulfillment by, pulling those various levers or using what Scott Seifax would talk about, all the toolbox, getting all those tools in your toolbox dirty and not just dirtying up a couple. And I've come to embrace that because I struggled, when we lightweight act like we don't compare ourselves, to others, that's a struggle that we have, whether it's imposter syndrome or somebody else's success that we celebrate, but we also use that as a metric sometimes as to, should I be where I am at 49 that they are? Should I be at this part? And I finally, come to a space to where I fully embrace and accept who I am, what God has for me. And one of the critical, and I was kind of teasing this out when you were speaking, one of the key elements that I'm grateful for is for vision. You know, leadership can be lonely because oftentimes when you have a vision, everybody around you may not necessarily see it or appreciate it. But when you see what you see and you know what you have to stay in hot, pursuit of that. And it's interesting as we talk, about aging and growing and evolving. I didn't really come to appreciate vision as much as I do now until about 5 or 6 years ago. I woke up one morning and I went to the mirror and, getting ready for work, and I'm brushing my teeth. And, sometimes you got to wipe the sleep out of your eye when you're getting ready, washing your face, whatever. So it was at that time my right eye. And it was just like kind of hazy. And this was in a 24-hour, period that I just noticed it, because the day prior, I didn't notice it. So I'm wiping this thing out of my eye, but it's still cloudy, So I'm like, what in the world is that? I'm trying to wipe it out. So a couple weeks later, it's still bothering me. So I go to my optometrist and they look, and mind you, at that time, I'm 43, 44,
Sure.
whatever. They're like,
Still feeling invincible.
Right. They're like, oh, you have a cataract in your eye. And they're like, you're kind of young to have a cataract. They're like, we call this, or would diagnose it as a traumatic cataract. They're like, have you ever played sports, or were you hit in your eye or whatever? I'm like, yeah, I grew up playing sports, but I've never had issues with my sight. Well, they're like, well, you have a traumatic cataract. They looked at the other eye and they said, we see one potentially developing in your other eye, but it's years away. So it worsened over time. And before you know it, like this eye, was cloudy enough to where I kind of couldn't see very well out of it.
Wow.
And nothing could fix it. I went in for that laser cataract removal surgery, and they put in a new lens, Mel. When I tell you, I was seeing new and different colors that I hadn't seen in a long time.
Wow.
And fast forward to this last year, I got the left eye done because the left eye went through the same process. So I have 2 new lenses in my eyes. I have corrective lenses for distance. But I came to appreciate the importance of vision. I literally had cloudy lenses to where I could not see, where it was obstructing my driving, particularly at night. And I never really told anyone other than Tamika and close family members. But when I got that LASIK surgery, it's just, you don't know, metaphorically or figuratively speaking, the importance of vision in life until your vision is obstructed at one time or another. And that has heavily resonated with me. So as I'm aging and getting to 50, I elevate my perspective, to use the words of Mel Woods, and really understand and appreciate that if you don't have vision, you will perish. And I'm grateful for the important role that vision, figuratively and literally, is playing in my life.
It's really interesting that you say that, because I think back to when you were dating your wife, Tamika. And I have always, it's been difficult for me to call it this, but I've always had the gift of prophecy.
Yeah.
And I think I've strayed from it because I'm fearful of what I'm really going to see if I allow God to move in me. And I don't know if you remember, you and I were having lunch. It was like November, maybe it was November, December timeframe. And I spoke to you over that relationship.
Yeah.
And fast forward 5-6 months later, you proposed to her.
Right.
And it's interesting because right now, and the beauty of this podcast, 2 Kids from Sac, I think we said grit, dreams, and graceful revelations.
Yes.
Is that I'm having a revelation right now that my vision has been clouded. And people have heralded me for birthing And if I get emotional, just give me a
okay,
moment.
yeah.
People have heralded me for birthing my dream and bringing my dream to fruition.
Yeah.
But because I'm not at a place where I'm letting some things go personally,
Yeah.
it's clouding my vision.
Right.
And the word release
Yeah.
has been sitting on my heart for the last 2 months
Yeah.
because I can't control anyone
Yeah.
but me.
Yeah.
But I realize my vision has been clouded because my language has been clouded. And as a visionary, I always see clearly.
Yeah.
So I think the takeaway in hearing you share the story is really being honest with myself
Yeah.
and realizing I have been looking for a therapist.
Yeah.
One of the biggest gifts my mother gave me
Yeah.
at the age of 17 was she said, everybody needs an owl
Yes.
because everybody needs someone to talk to.
Yeah.
Shout out to The Wiz, because that was one of the lines from The Wiz, and I did The Wiz a million times.
Yeah.
And I realized in this moment, I've been so focused on bringing the brand to fruition, on raising money, that I haven't stopped to recognize where we are.
Yeah.
And I haven't stopped to dream about where we need to go.
Yeah.
I know acquisition, people say, what do you want to do with the brand? And I say, no, exit is in our future because you can't touch 400 million until you touch 40 million.
That's right. That's right.
And the way that I would launch a brand after an exit is very different than how we've done Bootstrap now.
Yeah.
But what I realize in ending this year is my vision has been clouded.
Yeah.
And so the gift that I'm going to give to myself for 2026 is to find some time to really sit in introspection.
Yeah.
And I used to do a personal retreat. I would go to Palm Springs for the first couple of days of the year by myself. I would do a retreat, and I'm going to get back to that because I'm a dreamer.
I'll add, that is powerful. It makes me think about, I have a fraternity brother named Larry Nasri, and he told me years ago when I was going through, divorce process and just some challenges. He looked at me at a fraternity meeting one time and said, Jamal, he said, you matter. I mean, very simple, but powerful and timely words that I needed to hear at that moment. And you matter. Melanie is my sister, and I admire your hustle, and I admire your success, and I admire what God is already ordained for you to have in the future. And in order for you to optimize and experience that by being present, is that diversified portfolio I talked about with regard to us. It's mind, body, and spirit. So it's being comfortable with unclenching, I won't say your, but unclenching sometimes in life where the hustle and the grind requires this. But then there are times where you have to relax and release and open. And when those hands, are open, it allows you to breathe.
Submission.
It allows you to breathe and to relax, but also to receive, what is in store for you. And that's been one of my healthy concerns, just as my sister, as we grind and have worked on projects together, is that, God continues to send the people and the resources, both financial and human, that you need, so that once you kind of start to peak and hit, where you can no longer do this on your own, that you look around you and you have a continuation of what you already acknowledged of a cohort of people, and resources around you, to take it to the next level. And the only way you get there, and the only way we get there at that next phase, the next stratosphere of our respective lives, is taking, time back to breathe and to relax and to be reconciled and to be restored. And I'm excited, as we have future conversations, we've already agreed that our next topic we're going to tackle is just the importance of mental and behavioral health wellness. We've talked that a lot of people aren't well. A lot of people have been traumatized, not only of late, but they're dealing with unresolved issues.
Generational trauma.
Exactly. And I would love for us to unpack that, to destigmatize it, make it real from how healthy and normal it is. Just as you have a primary care physician, you should have a therapist.
Absolutely.
Not only when the wheels have fallen off,
but when things are going great.
That's right. That's right. That's right. So I'm excited to talk more and delve deeply into that end of the pool, but we can't help anyone else professionally or personally until we humble ourselves, step back, allow ourselves to be vulnerable, vertically, first of all, and then horizontally with those trusted advisors who can help us go through that restorative process and look out, when that restoration happens, because, we think we've been flying, but we've not, as Frank Sinatra said, we have not left the ground yet. So we are still on that runway preparing to hit a trajectory that is only meant for us.
And the other thing that I would add is this, is life is an ever-evolving process.
Yes.
I remember 2014 vividly saying to myself that I wanted to see myself the way that God saw me. And that was a 6-year journey.
Yeah.
But now at this level,
Yeah.
because I'm at another level doing other things, there are more revelations to offer, right?
Yes.
And so as we talk about, and as we wind down our podcast, this is not the conversation that I thought we were going to have
Right.
today. You had such a well-crafted, outline. But what I love about our friendship, our interaction, is that we can have real, authentic moments, and I think that's what people need and desire. So when we say 2 kids from Sac, right? We are 2 kids from Sac who are focused on making sure you pursue your dreams, who are focused on helping you understand the grit that we've experienced, but also those graceful revelations. And so as we prepare for our next podcast, which we will be doing 2 a month, we will have a resource here with us. You have such an extensive network where we can give people some real tools as it relates to how do you navigate when you know that there's next level thinking that needs to transpire, but you're still holding on to last level relation and doubt.
That's right. Absolutely. It is so important. There's a proliferation of podcasts and various multimedia platforms, and I'm grateful for it, but I don't think that a lot of these outlets actually use it to really speak about very important issues that help rebuild, restore, and address those very important components of our lives that help us become better as a people. So I know with our schedules and our time commitments and our limited bandwidth, how we want to spend our times, in this platform is how can we have an impact and how can we help enhance the lives of one another, but those, who will watch and who will listen, so that by this time next year, we can reflect back on various topics and themes that we've addressed, give people solutions, practical solutions that aren't overly complicated to adopt and to adapt to, and make a positive and productive, contribution. There's so much toxicity. People have economic hardship. Politically, it's just a mess when we think about the ecosystem there. Socially, social isolation is a real issue for people, not only those who are aging, but for many of our peers.
Absolutely.
And many others. So I look forward to having that conversation in a very optimistic, not a pessimistic way, very constructive way, and speaking from a place of practical lived experience, but also respectively operating in our areas of expertise, because people get it twisted. We are 2 kids from Sac, but it's misconstrued nationally that this is just a slow cow river town, river city. Like, no, we got it popping, and we got some intellectual stimulation and game that we want to put out there and offer to people locally, domestically, and internationally. And we want to affect change like that. So I'm proud to say that I'm one of 2 kids from Sac.
Absolutely. And as we prepare to sign off, make sure that you join us on different platforms where you can hear the podcast.
For sure.
And again, these 2 kids from Sac are going to make sure that we share with you, pour into you, and grow with you.
That's right.